Good evening. The time is now 5:02. I will call the March 19th, 2025 meeting of the Committee of Whole of the Common Council of the City of Lawrence to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. The next item is the determination of quorum. Let the record reflect that there are all 9 councilors present and that we have a quorum. This meeting has been properly addressed in accordance with the Indiana Open Door Policy, and copies of the agenda are located at the back of the meeting room. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business, for which there is none. We'll move on to new business. And the next agenda item is proposal number 2, 2025, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Lawrence of Indiana, amending Title I, Article 1, Chapter 2, Section 12 of the Municipal Code regarding Common Council approval on expenditures of professional service contracts. This proposal was introduced at the February 2025 Common Council meeting and was referred to the Committee of Whole for consideration and recommendation. Do councilors have any questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to read a statement that I've written on behalf of this because I originally, my understanding was one that originated this. And anyway, before us tonight is the proposal to reduce the cap on spending by the Board of Works. The proposal is the one that I have been trying to get before this council as far back as October of 2024. Unfortunately, my proposal has met with many obstacles and delays until tonight. Upon reading this proposal, it is not the one that I had envisioned or proposed. I find that it has been altered and rewritten without my knowledge or my permission. I had envisioned the cap on spending approvals to be returned to $5,000 as it was set forth by the previous city council for the previous mayor. It was approved by unanimous Democrat majority vote that included a yes vote by our current mayor, who at the time was a council member. When our current mayor and her administration took office, one of the very first things it sought to do was to either substantially raise or remove this cap that was bestowed upon the former mayor and its administration. This council obliged the new administration by raising the cap 10 times to the amount of $50,000, giving this administration the benefit of the doubt. Unfortunately, however, in the following months, this administration has shown the city and the council that there was no doubt that raising this cap was a huge mistake, as our city was constantly in the news for lack of fiscal responsibility. So before us tonight is my altered proposal to lower last year's cap from $50,000 to only $25,000. I believe that I have factual reasoning to insist that the cap be returned to $5,000, as it was unanimously approved by the previous Democrat council, which includes our present mayor. After its passing, the cap was lowered to $5,000. It was tried and tested without any serious complaints or issues with the previous mayor or his administration. So at this time, I would ask my fellow council members how they arrived at the current $50,000 cap and the reasoning for the proposed $25,000 cap. Is it just your opinion? And if so, I would rather go with the facts as I have explained them. I would now like to propose a motion to amend this proposal to lower the cap back to $5,000 as it was prior to 2024. So I'd like to make that motion now at this time.
Can I speak?
Do we have a second for his motion?
Well, if we should give us no second. I would say voted.
I would like to ask a clarifying question
Yes,
first.
ma'am.
Who's the sponsor of this.
Rick Wells is the sponsor. Betty, would you, what
So
was your
if,
question?
well, if this is not reflective of what he wanted to bring forward and he's the sponsor of it, then maybe he should make a motion to withdraw it and bring it back in the form that he requested.
Yeah,
That's,
that would be the way to do it.
Yeah. There's more than one way to do it, but if he's not happy with it,
What would be the difference to making an amendment to it and you just?
well,
get it
right now,
done?
you don't have a second.
No.
Counselor Robinson, would you like?
Yeah, I would like to make a statement, not to support what Councilor Wells has just said, but hopefully to give some clarity. He made a statement that this administration has some false allegations regarding the budget, the accounting process. DLGF did not find that at all. Yes, there were areas where some improvement could be made, but there was nothing wrong. Being involved, being engaged, will keep you informed as to what the findings are. And that's why I have strategically and planfully sent information to every counselor regarding training with DLGF, regarding training with State Board of Accounts. There was a training this morning on the budget. I couldn't attend it, but I did request that the tape be sent to me so that I can share it with everyone, because I didn't get that information out to you. That's how you stay informed, engaged, and be knowledgeable of what's going on. Because this administration was never charged with falsifying or doing the budget or incorrectly. The other statement I wanted to make was, it is impossible. It makes no sense that you think you're going to run a city government on $5,000 a month. We discussed this last year. We voted on it. That's how we came to the $50,000. We sat in the caucus and we talked about it and we came up with the $50,000. It wasn't pulled out of the air. But again, you got to be involved, engaged, and participate, and understand what's going on.
Mr. President, Mr. President,
One moment, please. Counselor Giles?
Just for the sake of Robert Rules of Order, I like to call the order because there's a motion that has no second. It cannot have discussion before a second. So we're wasting time if there's no second.
Yeah.
So, Counsel, okay, we have
ask
not
for a
received a second.
second.
Yes. Do we have a second to his amendment to lower from 25,000 down to 5,000? Okay, motion fails. Counselor Chavis, would you like to propose a motion that we table this for later?
I don't think there's a reason to table it. I was simply saying that Counselor Wells, as the sponsor of this, could make a motion to withdraw. And I was just putting that on the table, that he could do that. If not, we can proceed with it as written. But he's the sponsor and he doesn't support the document as it is written. So if he's the sponsor and he doesn't support it, then I'm not sure what we're doing.
Also, too, I think now, if I'm correct, that it failed, it would have to come back changed for us to.
It didn't fail. He just made a
Well, because of the second, so it
recommendation.
didn't fail. Okay.
Yeah,
That's what I
it
wasn't
didn't
sure.
fail because he just made a recommendation. Plus, this is only a recommendation, it's not a vote.
I also, if you would too, Mr. Chair, in your next spot of other business, I would like to just, under that, to give a little background. Lisa Sharon, correct me, before we went to the $5,000, what were we at prior to that?
50.
We were at 50. $5,000 was something that the prior council decided as what we were dealing with a crisis at that time. That other council had no faith in that prior administration. Today, that prior council has no authority over what happens today, and that previous administration is no longer here. So the precedent of a short-term, 1 year I don't think that is necessarily the precedent when this bill was considerably higher this threshold was considerably higher from its inception until. And so it was done because of those erroneous situations of the prior past. I just want to make sure that
Thank you, Counselor Giles. Do we have any other more discussion?
Mr. President.
Yes.
First off, to Councilor Robinson's is saying that this administration can't survive on $5,000 a month. For the record, this is not a monthly fee or a monthly income for this administration. This is a cap on monies that are brought to the Board of Works for approval for professional services. This fee may go, months. I doubt that it would go months, but it could go months, and this fee wouldn't even be an issue. All this cap does is, which was the same problem that has, I think, plagued this city for years, is the Board of Works is a group of people that are appointed by the mayor. It's not very likely, and I haven't checked the record, and now I wish I had have, but it's not very likely that the Board of Works has ever said no to something that was brought forth for an approval. Whereas if this body, who is 9 people that are elected by the citizens instead of appointed by one person, to me it just gets a little more transparency. And as far as what Councilor Giles had said, to the previous administration, I was just looking for a basis as to base this number on. And here again, the previous administration and the previous council, which some of us are still here, deemed to go to $5,000. And I think that action demands to be taken in light of what we have seen. I mean, yeah, I understand what the DLGF said, but we have seen with our own eyes. We have seen it with our own eyes that checks have not cleared, mine being one of them. We have seen that bond payments were made late. We have seen a budget presented to this council that was far from being a balanced budget, but it was voted on anyway. And I would like to add, at that night, when that budget was approved by this council, it was promised to the citizens, or to the employees of this city, who were promised a pay raise and was denied because there was so much doubt within that budget that there wouldn't be funds for the pay raises. So, I mean, how could we have this doubt and not have a concern that there may be some fiscal irresponsibility here?
legitimate concerns.
Yeah, Mr. President, I had a couple questions for the council, and Mr. Wells, I'll be happy to try to answer. You threw quite a few questions and things out there. I'd be happy to try to answer those to the best of my ability. But just looking at the ordinance, what city's ordinance are we modeling this after?
Our own.
Our own.
So during the
No, it was ours.
when Collier was on the council, so like 4 councils ago,
They
they
did
did it against Jessup.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's when it first, and his sister, and Collier, they brought that. And so then Collier had it through its administration, and then we reduced it the last year.
But is there, I know Councilwoman Masur, you've sent me things before, modeling after other cities involving housing and rental requirements, and I know you do your research, and I know some of you other do your research. Is there a city you're modeling this after?
After
No,
our
it's
own.
our,
I just
no,
gave you the answer.
it's ours.
I know that you said after, but
Well,
is there
not
another?
everything we do here is not best practices. I wish it was, but they're not. I mean, there's some
Okay.
things that we come up originally here. Maybe they should choose to do what we do.
Oh, well, let's see. Okay.
Yeah, that was
I'm
ours.
just saying.
Okay, that's, okay. I just wondered if
I
there
mean,
was.
it may not be the answer you like, but it was.
No, I
done,
just want to
you
make sure there's not, I'm giving everybody, I heard you, I just wanted to make sure
know. Well,
everybody
that's a
else had.
fact.
So far, you're
I
not
heard
losing.
you, but I want to make sure there's, somebody else doesn't
So
have.
far, you're not losing. Hold on.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure. What city, and if there's a city that has this, do you know if there's a city that has it in place? And I assume no.
I'm not aware.
You're not aware, okay. Can I ask, are you aware of any contracts the mayor signed that was what you would describe as wasteful and undeserving of being passed?
Can I answer that?
Please be specific. Yes, which contract?
Two of them just recently. I had doubts about the lobbyist, and I was told back over a year ago when we were voting on the lobbyist, we were doing so because we were going to get our own zoning ordinance away from Indianapolis. When we had the lobbyist stand before us, I didn't really hear anything definitive that they accomplished in the year of 2024 to warrant what we have spent. The other thing that concerns me,
Can I answer that?
sure,
Today, I had a meeting with Dave Corbett, our lobbyist from Krieg Duval, and Dan Parker, the chief of staff for the mayor of Indianapolis. We had a 1 hour long meeting going over checklisting everything. They've put it in Russell Brown's hands of drawing up documents, and that's not to say it's finalized, but the ball's in our court, and they're allowing us to draft those documents as we speak.
well, I'm just saying what I know as of before you just said that, and probably even at that, I would still have reservations because it's a lot of money. The other thing I
What is
have,
he working on? I didn't really hear what you're working on.
Just the transfer for the overlay district and for creating your own zoning ability for Lawrence to self-zone as opposed to.
Self-zone.
the other
Those-
thing,
And they're in the works, there's no guarantees
No,
on
but we're
that.
working on it for a while. That's good.
but the other thing I have a concern about was the recent approval of a PR firm. Was it $20,000 for a PR firm? And why? I mean, this city, the taxpayers are paying the salaries of 3 mayors. And I would think within 3 mayors that we could, this PR, whatever this PR firm is going to do, my understanding was to write the state of the city.
That's a true statement, what it said.
That's, well, I'm not a mayor, thank you
There's
very
3
much
mayors.
for the demotion or
Well,
promotion, whatever
you
you
were a
consider
former
it,
mayor,
but-
and the
but
gentleman
I-
back there
but
was
I'm-
a former
my
mayor.
title's chief of staff, and I make the exact same amount as my predecessor.
Okay, but regardless, you had the title of a mayor once upon a time, and you should have the knowledge of whatever it would be to be a mayor.
Can I pick up for you a little bit on this one?
Yeah, sure. help me
So,
out.
Rick, you remember those nice
What?
billboards that said Love Lawrence and all that nice stuff? That's the same PR marketing budget for our city. Remember when we worked with my board to try to market our city to people in central Indiana to choose Lawrence as their home?
So let me just go back to, my position is the same as I'm chief of staff, and that is the same position held by my predecessor at this exact same pay. Jim Perrin you're correct, he is a former mayor, but he is making the same money that his predecessor, I'm drawing a blank on her name. He replaced her, so the mayor didn't add to her staff or add anything to it. It was a replacement for somebody who left the city. And I appreciate your answers, because I asked for specifics and you gave them to me, so I appreciate that. Does anybody else have specific contracts that have given them grief?
Is it, I got a question. Is it a problem having people with that kind of experience working for the mayor? Does anybody have a problem with that?
I have a concern about what it's gonna cost. I mean, she could hire anybody she wants.
Point
It's
of
just
order,
what it's gonna
point
cost.
of order. We're here about proposal number 2, 2025. So I think that we need to stay on track with that, both with the questions and the responses or questions back.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I asked Mr. Wells, he did respond. Does anybody else have any contract specifics that they concerned about? Okay.
No, and the only request that I have, and we did have this occur last year, and is that any contract that we enter into that we believe may exceed the $50,000, I personally would appreciate that that come before us long before,
You think it's as if at some point in time, if it's a
if
rolling?
that's
type-
what the ordinance says.
Correct.
If you believe that it may exceed the
Fair
$50,000.
enough.
So if you enter into something knowing that for the type of work you're doing, that it could possibly go over that, I would like for that to come before us. We've had it happen where it's been at the 50 or over the 50, then it's coming to us. So that's the only issue that I've had over the past year, is to make sure that those contracts that might be, probably would
Yep.
be over the 50, that they come to us.
Okay, no, fair enough. That's all I had.
Is there any other further discussion that's relevant to the conversation?
Thank you.
All righty. I will now move, do we have a recommendation, either favorable, unfavorable, or a non-recommendation?
He didn't even get a second, so.
His-
He's
his-
for an
That was
amendment.
just to amend from 25,000.
So there's no
down to
motion
5.
on,
There was no second, so there was no vote.
Yes, so that amendment fails. So
Right.
now we're moving on to actually make the recommendation.
also, you
anyone
looking
like-
for a motion for recommendation? of-
Yes, I'm asking for recommendation, either a favorable, unfavorable, or a non-recommendation.
I'll make a motion that we make a favorable recommendation to the council.
Do I have a second? Motion fails. Do we have a motion for an unfavorable or a non?
I recommend unfavorable.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll now proceed with an unfavorable recommendation vote. If you please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
All right, let the record reflect that we have an 8-1 vote for an unfavorable recommendation. We will now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is other business. Is there any other business we'd like to discuss at this committee this evening? All right, thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Okay, so now we need